It's 26 degrees here in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily. I'm Maokwe Ogunyusuf.
Lovely Friday morning. Good morning and welcome. I'm Kayla Megwa.
Yes, indeed. Well, this morning we're taking you to Kebbi State. That's where we're taking you to, and we're going to be showing you a farm which will be most suitable for paddy farming. Yes, rice paddy farming. This particular river is called the Fada River in Kebbi State, and it runs through some parts of the state, making sure that farmers are able to produce their agricultural produce as and when due.
Indeed, a lovely sight there. Of course, good morning, Kebbi. And rice farming, I think I remember during the Buhari administration, that was something that they really took advantage of, the Kebbi State government. And then, of course, the Lagos State government partnered with them at the time. And that brought a whole revolution in rice, so to speak. We had so much locally grown rice in the country. And, it made everyone feel at the time like, oh, we are finally making some way when it comes to stopping the importation of rice. But of course, we're still seeing all of that happening, even under the Tinubu administration. There's a lot of things happening in agriculture. Not too long ago, we had that conversation. Not too long ago, we had that conversation about the special agro-processing zones. And rice production is one of those things that are being looked at the SAPZs. That and, of course, some other crops. I mean, Mark, when last did you go to the market to buy pepper? I have been screaming since I found out how much pepper costs right now. And I know a lot of you are going to buy pepper this weekend for stew on Sunday. So this is a call. I know that it's got to do with the weather, really.
It is.
But then again, the economic indices, and then, of course, having to, the idea of growing our own and making it available, so much so that more people go into pepper farming, so we have surplus in the market. We are a farm country.
Well, Kayla, it would be really, really remiss of us. I mean, yes, while it is true that as you can see in the visuals here, different paddy slots, you can see how different farmers have demarcated their plots, for the different things that they want to farm around this river. It would actually be remiss of us not to note the most important thing that this river is noted for, and which is the Argungu Fish Festival. So yes, the Argungu Fish Festival takes place on this particular river, which you're looking at, the Fada River in Kebbi State. Who would have known that Kebbi, in northwest of Nigeria, will be the state famous for that fishing festival? You might have imagined that it would be Kogi, the confluence state, or Benue, or any other state that's got a really big, huge river around it, even Delta. But no, it is Kebbi State that is known for the Argungu Festival. And it's a good thing to see that other states are also taking a cue from that, with what they're doing in their states. I know Taraba, also started this festival around one of their rivers. The Argungu Festival marks the start of the fishing season in Kebbi State. Yes. And after that season, no one is allowed to fish until another season when the Argungu takes place again. It's remarkable. Oh, well, and that's what we're told. We have to keep the legend, don't we?
It's a very old legend, by the way. That fishing festival started in 1934. That was the first time it was inaugurated. And it's a festival that we've been invited to. It's a festival that we should go for.
Yeah, indeed. As many Nigerians should see it. Yes, as many Nigerians as possible should see it.
It's whenever we cover it, and then I see the massive fish, and
that come out of the river.
And it's just beautiful. I know that there was a time when the festival was stopped. But when the Buhari administration came in, it started again. I don't know if it's held this year yet, but that would be something to really look out for. So, Kebbi, we're available. Let's know what's going on when the festival happens. It's something that we'd like to bring to the Nigerian people to remind us of that particular tradition.
And the people of Nigeria can always put it on their to-do list, put it on your bucket list. One of the places to certainly see. But while we talk about the fishing festival that happens once a year in Kebbi State, Something else happened all over Nigeria. It also happens once a year, which is Workers' Day. Workers celebrating their day and making their demands. This year, we understand that 20 demands are being made of government across the different states. So yes, while the national NLC and the TUC make the demands at the central point, all of their numerous affiliates and branches across the state, the 36 states, also, re-echo those demands. And one of the demands that really stood out for me is workers asking that retirement age be increased from 60 to 65. I've never understood it. Why does anyone want to work longer?
Because they need money.
So the thing is this, I still remember, and I think this is from my own experience, my father worked in a place where you had the option of retiring at 55 or you could work to 60, and my father chose the option of 55. Because he just felt that how much really could you possibly need? But I think as he's turning out in Nigeria today, you do need a lot of money. And and it's so difficult to plan the uncertainty. And well, some people say it's not just Nigeria, it's a global thing. Yeah, and that there's so much uncertainty that when you say, oh, you've been able to save this much, if it grows at this certain interest rate, I should be able to feed, I should be able to look after my family. Oh, my children are grown, I have a roof over my head. That should be fine for me. But the way it works now, your 50 naira, which you've saved in your bank, could just become 5 naira overnight. And that's basically how it works. So you see the workers now asking for them to be able to work to 65 amongst the host of other demands that they are making of government. But yesterday was certainly a very colorful day around the Federal Capital Territory here in Abuja, and also
across the country.
Yes, different state capitals where the celebrations took place.
It's instructive that you mentioned your father in that situation. In my case, it was the opposite. My mom retired at 65. And then went back to work. Went back to work. And you see, the thing is, like, just to note that point, so young people can understand what's going on. It's a different world now. The older you get, the more money you need. And then we're seeing situations where, with the volatility of the naira, especially in Nigeria here, the volatility of the naira, and your spending power is actually really reduced as you get older. So for many old people, they find that retiring at 60 is almost like a death sentence for many of them. At least that's where the argument is coming from. It feels like a death sentence. What am I going to do when I'm 60? What if my children can't take care of me? What if I'm not getting my pension regularly? So these are the issues, and that's the reason why many people are asking that the retirement age be increased to 65. The productivity at 65 is what other people may be worried about, but hey, that is the argument out there.
Well, you might want to listen to the NLC and the TUC and their president on how they put out those demands.
Workers from across the Federal Capital Territory in different attires stream into the Eagle Square in Abuja to celebrate May Day and amplify their demands for better working conditions and rights. The leaders of the Nigerian Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress sound the alarm over the declining welfare of workers as the cost of living soars.
We suggest once again that government should deliberately put more money into the hands of workers who drive the economy, who drive the local economy, support local industries, and recover and expand, end the statistical gerrymandering, rebasing inflation, unemployment, and GDP figures does not feed the people.
Stop the compression of civic space. Number 2, implement minimum wage that reflect current realities. Number 3, withdraw exploitative tax bill. Number 4, reduce telco tariffs as agreed from 50 to 35%. Number 5, reverse electricity privatization. Number 6, end impunity, killings, and insecurity.
All the demands listed by the organized labor in the program for the event are upward review of the retirement age of all workers from 60 years to 65 years and service years from 35 years to 40 years, restoration of gratuity payments, withdrawal of the tax bills that are before the National Assembly, as well as the reversal of the suspension of the democratically elected government of Rivers State.
Who is represented by...
However, President Bola Tinubu, represented by the Minister of Labour and Employment, Mr. Mohammed Dingadi, says his government is committed to providing an enabling environment for the workers to thrive.
As a government, we will continue to strengthen labour protections, improving job security, and ensuring fair treatment for all workers in line with international best practices, and at the same time addressing issues of unemployment, which remains a significant concern.
With the speeches over, the March Past parade kicks off. Some workers speak about their expectations.
Unity is our strength, and we will continue to embrace one another. We will continue to do everything possible to be accountable.
We want also to continue to plead that something has to be done about the so-called minimum wage, because it cannot take anybody home.
Despite the challenges, a palpable sense of optimism reverberates among the workers as they showcase their diverse professions and vocations. Nigerian workers have spoken, the government has listened. What is next is the question lingering on the minds of these excited workers today. And as the drum of the May Day celebration fades, their wish is that the government will grant their demands. From the Eagle Square in Abuja, Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
Well, we're looking at a potpourri of issues this morning. We're going to be starting off with labor matters, certainly. I mean, how can Workers' Day pass and workers like us will not talk about it? Well, we're being joined this morning by Mr. Laolu Akonde, a former presidential media aide. Mr. Akonde, it's always very good to see you.
Good to see you always.
Is this still okay to say happy you?
Good to see you always.
Is this still okay to say happy Workers' Day to you?
I think so, at least. The hours are still quite close.
Have you joined us in comradeship?
I've always been a comrade. I mean, just look at my beard.
You know? No. So people who don't have beards, what are they supposed to do now? If it's about beards, what do women do?
No, I won't. Just kidding. But I've actually always been a comrade.
Well, yesterday we saw the comrades gather in different parts of the country, in Abuja here, in the different state capitals, making their demands and, will I say, extorting or exacting promises from government leaders at different points. Here in Abuja, the president says, I've heard you, he was speaking through his Minister of Labour and Employment. But Labour, nonetheless, very loud in their demands, what they're asking for. Some of it including a return to civil rule, to civilian or democratic rule in Rivers State. So also bringing in national matters into some of the demands that they are making. Right. What did you make of the celebrations yesterday?
Well, it's quite an opportunity for us as a people to celebrate Workers' Day and to remind ourselves, in my view, of what is the missing link, in the workforce in our country. We don't pay good remuneration at all, by any stretch of the imagination. And like the politicians will say, the government and the private sector pretends to pay workers a decent salary, and the workers at some point also pretend to receive good salaries. But the truth of the matter is that people are poorly paid in this country, extremely poorly paid. And if you look at what the government has done, for instance, trying to sort out the issues of judges, paying them the right salary, that's the right thing to do, and I commend it, but we should take it all the way.
Like it needs to trickle down.
Yeah. We need to take it all the way. You have to pay people a living wage, a truly living wage. We shouldn't reduce it to conjecture whether it is enough or not. There should be a way for us to be able to measure that this is what is decent that people can live a normal, basic life.
And I like how you put it. You said, government pretends to pay workers a living, and the workers in turn pretend to receive a living wage. And that's what has actually, some people say that's what has fueled corruption.
Absolutely.
So we hear all of these scandalous stories, and it's no longer strange to us. Take for instance, what we're hearing from NELFund, the newly established body, which is supposed to make sure that students are able to get loans and can continue their education, and when they're able to, can pay back. Even though we're now beginning to hear a correction of that particular story, I think a lot of Nigerians have already run with the first one, which is a discrepancy between what it is that government has put in so far, what has been paid to students, and what it would seem was not accounted for. These are some of the stories that and these stories are not strange to us anymore, because at the base of it are issues like this. Now, it's not a justification, but the truth is, if we haven't addressed it, haven't we given room for this sort of, this corruption to fester?
So, and that's the point. And thank you for, concluding my thought. So when we pretend to pay workers decent salary, they also pretend to collect. It's because they know there's a way to beat the system, And the other thing, apart from the corruption, is the attitude to work. There are still very decent people, diligent people, in the workforce, both in the public and private sector. But you will find out that the attitude to work in our country is generally poor because people are not motivated. So look at what happened yesterday in the NELFund statement. A public statement, somebody forgot to do the due diligence. That's what they tell us.
They omitted the word not.
Big deal, and that is not the first time. If you remember, NBS, posted a report and then deleted it. If you remember, JAMB, Kate Henshaw was correcting JAMB's public release, correcting their grammar. So you will see a certain pattern of lack of diligence in the work that we do, whether it's in private sector or public sector, more especially or more likely in the public sector. So these are the issues that we always come up with, besides corruption. And that's why we have to sit down really to understand that, look, whether it's as a matter of fact, it will seem that anytime we're talking about issues of wages, the private sector is always, the ones that say, no, we can't afford it, we can't afford it. We can afford it, whether it's private sector or public sector. We can find a way to make the workforce more productive, to be motivated. For instance, what happened to taking care of the accommodation? If you can't give somebody cash because it's going to go with inflation, how about housing, provide for their housing, How about doing something that takes care of the payment of their children's education? How about giving them health care that, that they basically don't have to pay for if they don't have the money? There are a lot of things that we need to do as a people to really get serious with ourselves.
And Kayla and I raised this issue of, this was part of the workers' demands that they be allowed to work till they're 65. And I was saying that, when I was growing up, it was that workers wanted to retire early. The people were given the option to retire at 55 if they wanted to, and they were happy to. But now, workers are the ones making the demands to work.
I want to work more.
I want to work
for
more.
longer.
Because the working, the jobs are not really there, and then when people leave the employment, it's a big problem to even get their pensions right, and there's a lot of struggle, So what I'm saying is that both in the private sector and the public sector, we must look at how do we take care of the average worker. If we can't pay them the salaries that is enough, okay. How can we find options to take care of them? We know their needs. When I was
listening to Labour yesterday, it did feel like Mohammed Dingyadi was saying something, and then the Labour unions are saying something else.
Two different conversations.
Yeah, it felt like they were having two different conversations. And it really struck a chord, because even if now we're saying, look, let's take care of workers, let's pay them, where is the money going to come from? And Labour has said, you're not addressing the real issues. Our manufacturing, agricultural sector, the places where as a country we're supposed to make money from are moribund. And then for some reason we have workers who are, even 70,000 naira is not realistic. We heard them say that yesterday. You can't live on 70,000 naira.
Yeah.
It's such a chain reaction of mistakes that have been made in the past. The chickens have come home to roost, and now we're looking at the situation and thinking, oh, can we give money? Can we do? Where is the money going to come from? That's what government will ask you.
Please.
What's the way forward
please,
with this one?
Let's make this point. We should never accept the argument that there's no money. We should never accept it. We should never. Because the political elite, when they want to do something, they go fetch the money. They go fetch the money. And I don't want to sound too critical. We can point our finger, to this idea. They get the money when they need to get the money. Nigeria has the resources. We have the potential. Look, do you see the level of corruption that is going on in our country? So if people weren't greedy, do you know how much impact some of those monies we make? I mean, do you know the impact that 1 billion naira that somebody can just steal cavalierly, casually? Do you know the impact that it can make in the life of people in the rural areas, poor people?
How do we?
We have the money. And please, one more point. And we also have the potential. Do you know the level of illegal mining that is going on in this country? Unregulated. Did you see the amount of oil theft that is going on? Nigeria has the money, but we just haven't found the right, determination to say, look, let's just do things right and let us run an efficient society.
How do we move the money from these places to real economic sectors and better the lives of people? If people are benefiting from a corrupt system, is it if we start to punish people? What can we do to move that money from these coffers and these robbers and move it into where the people get better? How do we make that transition?
Well, government has to be very practical. I'll give you an example. So, when I was in government working with the vice president, that was what was called the Economic Survivor program. So the ESC, Economic Survivor Committee, that became his Economic Survivor Plan after COVID. And the vice president and the team that he led in government, they came up with a lot of ideas that can really, really turn things around. They say, for instance, look, government is going to calibrate the situation where we're going to build 300,000 new houses in this country. Okay? And you know what will happen when everywhere you turn the whole place into construction sites? We're supposed to get the money from CBN. CBN is supposed to organize the funding. And the guys sat on it and gave the guys a family home fund. Some of them are still there. Gave them a run in and run out and run in and run out. Turns out that maybe they were able to do, I think Bono did about 8,000, and then altogether just a few thousands. Because one guy, and I can say this publicly, the guy who was the Central Bank governor, wasn't interested in that. The guy was cutting other deals. So when we tolerate corruption and the impunity of it, what happens is that you cannot do the needful things. So we have the money in this country, we have the resources, we just need the organization. There's no reason why we couldn't have in Nigeria free healthcare. There's no reason, absolutely no reason. Which is another thing that the Buhari administration did just before they finished. Again, the vice president chaired the committee where the idea of health insurance was developed and said, look, if you don't have money, the government and that system will pay. Because when we get the money, the government will put in a contribution, and then the people who can afford it, we also contribute. Everybody, just like in America, you'll be compelled to be part of the insurance, and we can take care of people. People can go to hospitals and get treatment and not die of typhoid. All of these things are there. We can do it. Some of the work is already done. It just requires us to have the political will to say, let's go and do it.
Yeah, I do know that when I listen to Professor Alipate, I always come up feeling like, something is being done in that regard. I mean, when you listen to him, you cannot but feel that something is being done. I mean, he talks about the cancer institutions that have been built and treatment centers, etc., etc. But sometimes, when you also listen to the plight of Nigerians, everyday Nigerians, from time to time you hear people, oh, this person is ill, they're raising funds to, and then you want to say, you know what, why don't you try? But then even you're not sure. Because you've not had to use it in a while, so you're not exactly sure, but you know that this is what you're hearing. Is it that there is a gap between what government is saying? Because as Kayla noted, she was saying that it seemed that the Labour Minister was having a different conversation from the Labour leaders. From your own experience, while you're saying some of these things now that the government you worked with tried to do, some of it already started. But clearly, the gap between what government wants to achieve and where the Nigerian people are is still very, very evident. What needs to be done to reconcile the efforts being made on the one hand and the experiences of people?
Well, I mean, it's just, in my view, there are quite a few things, but the most important thing is just the political will of the leaders. And I don't want to just say it's just the president, because the governors can do quite a lot that they are not doing now. Yes, the president must lead from the center, the president must give examples, but a lot of these things are in the hands of governors. Let's look at an example. There was a story yesterday in The Guardian and also in Power Newswire that said that there is over 300 billion naira that governors are not assessing for basic education. Can you imagine that? Over 300 billion. When they break it down to about all the 30 states that haven't taken it, each of them will probably get about 7 billion.
Why are they not assessing it?
Well, because they said that they don't have the matching funds because they have to come up with 50% of it.
Okay.
So governors are able to build all these huge infrastructures all over the place, and they can't afford 7 billion to be able to take additional 7 billion and use 14 billion to transform education. And the Minister of Education actually wrote them a letter, which was published in the papers yesterday, that said, look, this is the kind of numbers. If you collect this money, if you get this money, this is the kind of transformation. This is the kind of teachers that you can train in just 3 months, 14,000 in the case of Ogun State that was reported. This is the number of classrooms that you can build, about 5,000. But governors, about 30 of them as we are speaking, they say, well, we don't have the matching grants.
There's a statement that was made by somebody in government one time, Mark, when the person, it was about education. And he was talking about the same sort of thing you're talking about right now. And one of the things he said, I think it was the Emir of Kano. And he said, listen, you have to think like a politician. Education will take 10 years to show results. Meanwhile, as a politician, you're trying to do things instantly that will be seen. You want to be able to cut tape. You want to be able to commission this, commission that. So most of the time, especially at state levels, you see a lot of developmental projects, in quotes, and it's basically commissioning. They want that photo up. I built this road, but when you say things that are not very tangible, like education, that takes time. It takes about 10 years for you to see the turnover of something like education. So in many ways, how do we get governors to start to think about long-term legacy projects as opposed to instant commissionings that we can take pictures and put in the newspapers?
Yeah, so and it's the only way that we can secure the future of our country. So we are having problems of insecurity. You have a lot of people that are not educated, who are willing to be employed to do crimes and to do insurgency because they didn't go to school. They don't know the left from the right. You have people in some parts of the country, some teenagers. They used to tie a bomb around them, go and blow yourself up because there's no self-awareness. Human capital development is at the basis of any other kind of development. And look, if you want to do a show, you can do a show. You just have to be innovative. It's not only when you do infrastructure that you can do a show. There are dilapidated buildings all over this country. You can start to build schools. Whatever you're doing, you can make a show of it. You just have to be. Look at what we did, Empower. There is nobody in this country that didn't know that there is one program called Empower. And it's not contract. It's not infrastructure. It's just getting and the people will be excited. The people, they will trust you. They will develop a resonance because you're touching their lives directly. If we don't take care of human capital development issues, health and education, we haven't started. And that is the sacrifice that leaders must make to understand that, look, the people are the most important ingredient for development. Yes, we should do infrastructure, but we can't live. Look at the kind of things that people are dying about. It's heart-rending when you imagine. People are dying of typhoid. Malaria is killing people in our country, Malakwe and Ikela. It's sad.
It is really heart-rending. I mean, and one will, sadly, you know, these issues of development oftentimes do not sell. The issues of good governance. I see a number of, you know, newspapers, and I see a number of, you know, media houses try to bring these issues to the fore. But sadly, they're not the ones that hog the headlines, unless you're intentional about it. It is usually the political defections. Oh, this person. And those are the things that these days, too, you cannot discount social media. Those are the things that get the people excited. Emotions, you know, start to flow as to drama, exactly. The drama of it all. And I'm wondering how it is that we can make this, while the politicians are wondering how they can quickly cut tapes, how we can make these issues exciting enough for people to want to, for politicians to take note, to know that, look, these things are important. And for also the people to know that these things are the things that keep any society sane. If you do not have health, you do not have education, your society might as well not exist.
And that's the point I was making, that look, so it depends on the intentionality of the people that are doing it, the leaders. You know, we can get them excited because it's about their lives. Do you understand? So yes, you may have to be innovative, you have to think through it, but we can certainly, because when they see that you are touching their lives, you know, I mean, look at when we were doing, and I'm, you know, it's interesting I'm bringing up all these experiences because I have seen that these things are doable. When we did trader money, you know, and the vice president will go to the market, you need to see the excitement.
Now, what happened?
Excitement, huge.
What happened after? What, because these programs.
Yes.
What happened? There was no continuity. Did they end? What happened?
So the problem, well, you know, since you brought it up, the problem was that in 2019, the president decided to take the thing to form a ministry, you know, which wasn't a bad thing, and then put somebody who had no experience, who was not involved in what had happened up until 2019 to head the place.
So they moved all those things to the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs.
Yeah, so they created a new ministry and put it there. And then, you know, I would have thought, and this is my own opinion, that yes, the president, you know, wants to change strategy. You should have used the people, get somebody who was involved in this thing from 2016 to 2019, when the thing got a lot of accolades nationally and internationally, to head the place. Or get them involved. You want to bring somebody who had no idea whatsoever. And then you think...
But there's a new minister there now.
In controversy.
There's a new minister there.
Yeah.
These programs are still in the Humanitarian Affairs Ministry.
Hopefully.
Is there any conversation going on about their continuation?
Well, there is. I know you're posing that to Laulu. I do know that right now that there's a committee which the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy is supposed to be heading to take a look at some of these projects. Especially this. I'm looking for the word now.
Trader money.
No. There's a word they use for all of them collectively.
Social investment programs.
Social investment programs, you know, to look at their effectiveness and see how they can be collectively revamped. So I do know that is going on. It's unclear, you know, just when that committee will finish sitting, how long they will sitting for, and things of the sort. But that we know that this, especially after the scandal with the last minister.
Right. And my point was actually just I used that to say that you can do some of these projects and get people excited. I want to emphasize the responsibility of governors. You know, governors are sitting on a lot of money and doing very little in terms of human capital development. They are doing very little in terms of health. They are doing very little in terms of education. You spoke of what Professor Pate is doing in health. He will need to carry the states along because that is where the people live. You know, so we need to talk to governors to really sit down. They need to get involved, and they can show. There will be stuff to showcase when they start to do it. The problem is that because procurement for infrastructure seems to be much more, you know, readily available, you can make a lot more from it, and that's corruption. That is what is driving it. If you give the people, look, when we were doing social investment and we were giving people, you know, 5,000, you know, 10,000, there was a lot of excitement from the people. As a matter of fact, That was what we used to win re-election in 2019 in this country. It was the social investment program.
Well,
people, wherever we were going, people came out.
There was controversy about that one.
Yes,
People were saying, oh, that was vote buying pre the election. Organized vote buying. Let us.
It's a political temperature.
Let us not, remove the message, take away from the message to the governors. Mr. Laolu Akonde's message is to the governors this morning to prioritize the Human Development Index, HDI. And for the governors that are doing so, we're more than happy to help showcase it. Yes. This is advertising for us. Well, if you are really doing something, I'm sure it will speak for itself. And I'm sure that also
look at us talking about the Minister of Health.
Yeah.
HMOs right now are calling you to ask you if you're getting the health care that you're asking for. When you go for chemotherapy, at least in Abuja, it's at a reduced, it's about 10,000 naira per session right now. And these are, so if you're doing something, we will see that you're doing something.
So I think it's a fine place to leave it. And Mr. Akonde, we have to thank you always for coming on the program.
Thank you so much.
So Laolu Akonde is a former presidential aide. We're going to leave this segment now, but we will not stop talking about development with our next guest. So please stay tuned.
I'm glad, I've said it earlier, that the party, the governor and our vice presidential candidate has not faulted the party, nor did the party did anything wrong, rather than their wish, according to them, to join the party which to me we've taken it with all sort of regret and the pains that has gone down with us. We have also instructed the National Legal Advisor to recover our mandate that they have taken away. The fortune of this party cannot be just left in the hands of our adversaries. So you will take legal action to retrieve those mandates. We've just instructed the Zonal Caretaker Committee to oversee the party in Delta after dissolving all the structures that has already been there since majority of them has shifted.
Well, there you heard I'm looking for the word, the acting chairman of the PDP now, talking about their reaction to the defection of the governor of Delta State. And I guess some people say the reaction is more preemptive in the sense that it seeks to stop further defections. It's unclear whether it will be able to achieve a defection back into the PDP, but they certainly are not taking this particular defection laying low. This morning, we're being joined by Dr. Taufik Raimi, who's a development expert, a business economist, and policy analyst. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Thank you, Moki, for having me, and Kayla.
Good morning.
We're just talking to our viewers and telling them how we intend to keep the conversation on development, regardless of whether or not we talk politics. And I don't know how we intend to do that, but we're going to try. Because here we are. Last week, we heard the big news that the governor of Delta State had defected to the All Progressives Congress. And on Monday this week, he was officially received alongside the former deputy vice presidential candidate of the PDP into the APC. As a matter of fact, the vice presidential candidate granted an interview saying that he regretted, regretted running as vice presidential candidate with the PDP because his people, had the sentiments that, rotation should be at the heart of it, and they felt that it was the time for the South, not the North. And as a result, their party was punished in his state. It made him unable to deliver Delta State to the PDP in the presidential polls. I don't know what you make of all of this and how it is that it eventually affects development. Because at the end of the day, I mean, you are a development expert. So what did you make of what is or what do you make of what is happening on the political scene right now? And how do you see it affecting the development of the Nigerian people?
Okay, thank you very much for having me. And let me start by congratulating our Nigerian workers and workers all across the globe. You know, without workers, there cannot be economic development of any state or of any country. The contribution of Nigerian workers into the development of Nigeria, whatever level we think we are, even though we are not where we are supposed to be in terms of development, must be commended. And of course, I'm extending this congratulations to the #1 public servant of Nigeria, their president, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
He's also a worker?
Oh, is he not working for Nigeria? He's working for Nigeria and he's getting paid for it, I believe. So everyone should, in fact, that is exactly part of the conversation orientation we should begin to also have because it has always been in recent time or over the years, them against us. You know, I think he is a public servant. We have civil servants, we have public servants in the public sector space. So I congratulate him and the administration and all of us also, including you and myself, on what we have done so far. On these, I feel, so talking about, let me start from the defection you mentioned. In the current political dispensation in Nigeria, my take would be that the opposition party, for me, they are in the sleeping mode, what I call sleeping mode. Whereas the ruling party, the APC, especially at the national level, is actively working towards consolidating on power. Do not forget that the essence of political association or political party is to search, seek, and work towards control of power. So we should not deceive ourselves. Even while you are governing, you are still playing politics so as to consolidate on that power.
Is it power for the sake of power or power for the sake of development?
No, it's power to serve. You know, I must emphasize, and I thank you, I must emphasize that while we seek, of course, democracy is a form of government that enables those who are put in position of leadership to bring dividend of what we call dividend of democracy to people. Of course, power means that you have that authority from the people to, you know, use the resources of the state to be able to deliver protection, welfare, and all that to the people. So I believe that the opposition party, not limited to PDP, the Labour Party, the SDP, and others. As you know, INEC, which is independent National Electoral Commission of Nigeria, registered 18 political parties. But of course, we have frontline opposition party. The major opposition party for me, since the last election, have been in sleeping mode, you know, and I believe that for them to even think of winning in the next election, whether in the general election 2027 or the midterm elections that are taking place, there are 5 things that, in my opinion, they're supposed to be doing, which could have prevented the gale of defection that we're talking about. 1, reconciliation, genuine reconciliation. Can you say that has been taking place from PDP or Labour Party? 2, there are supposed to be series of congresses that should have taken place after the last 2023 general election. 3, they are supposed to be having concern about the welfareism of their members so that the members will not be sheep without shepherd. 3, there are supposed to be a lot of strategic alliances, you know, talking to people, trying to form coalition or getting people to come to their fold, whether by defection or by willingness. 4, I expect that opposition political party should have also constituted themselves into looking at how to revalidate their current membership and also how to win new members. If you pick PDP, which you have mentioned, you will notice that since the fallout of the last election, there has been one crisis or the other. And so they are not focused towards solving those crises, and they may continue to be on this for some time.
Before we let you go, you know, the Labour Party is going to be having their NEC meeting today.
Oh.
And of course, we've been seeing all of the questions about what's going on in the Labour Party. What do you think? What do you think they should be talking about as they come together today?
Okay, so Kayla, that's a very good question you have asked about Labour Party, and it still falls down to part of what I mentioned earlier. Which Labour Party are we talking about? Because there cannot be a human being without a head. Is it the Labour Party under the chairmanship of Senator Nanadi or Usman,
Abure.
or the Labour Party under the chairmanship of Abure, or the Labour Party under the chairmanship of the older man who said he is the most senior in the neck of their association? So see, there's why we believe that there is the need for opposition party in Nigeria. Because opposition party will put pressure on the ruling government so as to make them uncomfortable to be able to do what is right. I've had argument that the ruling APC is the one planting problem into this opposition party so that they will not be far, they won't have, they will be weakened. And I said to myself, and for political analysts, even as development analysts, because of course, don't let's deceive ourselves, what is happening in the political space is affecting us even in the private sector as developers or as development or businesses. So we must take interest in this. Of course, I also have lineage to political organization, the APC, so I must also mention this. It is important to say. You see, there's a proverbial saying in Nigeria that if there's no crack on the wall, lizard won't have a way into it. So the Labour Party, I'm asking them to, rework their ways to, as much as possible, resolve their leadership crisis. Because if as a Labour, as a political party, you cannot manage yourself, I do not think Nigeria is ready for such a political party at the helm of affair, because there will be more problems than they will be able to solve.
Do you fear that we could be declining into a one-party state?
No, I do not think we will be declining into a one-party state. You see, there will still be other political parties. There will be Labour Party, there will be SDP, there will be other political parties. The only thing is that one party may continue to be stronger than the other. Not because, and part of why that can happen is the performance of the ruling party, whether at national level or at state level. Do not forget that even the PDP we are talking about still controls some states. And so I believe that we are not trending on the path of a one-party system. Those who are saying we are tending towards one-party system should also ask the question, what are we doing not to get to one-party system?
Well, it's a fine place to live it. Dr. Taufik Raimi is a development expert, business economist, and also a policy analyst. Thank you so much for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Well, that's where we leave you this beautiful Friday morning. Thank you so much for being a part of our conversation. I'm Maupe Ogu Yusuf.
Indeed, we have Business Morning coming up, so stay up for that one. I'm Kayla Magwa. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.